from Chris Pavlovsky, who's the CEO and founder of Rumble, which we are on right now and which we love. So apparently, he's saying, apparently the New York Times is coming after Rumble. That's no big surprise. In the email correspondence below, it's because Rumble creators are warning people of the potential of nuclear war. I've warned you guys about that. This is even after Putin has spoken about the potential of nuclear war and a new nuclear doctrine. So, Jake Pentland, beware Rumble Video and all sane Americans. The New York Times is running another hit piece on real news organizations to cover up their blatant bullshit. My response in the second slide. You know, they should still be so ashamed of their work in the run-up to the Iraq war with the weapons of mass destruction and Judith Miller and all of that. They should be so ashamed of that. They shouldn't. It's amazing they have still to this day. They should be so ashamed of that. It should be unthinkable of them to accuse other people of fake news or propaganda. All right. Regarding New York Times inquiry. Hi, Jake. I'm writing from the New York Times. We're working on a story about Rumble that briefly mentions the Roseanne Barr podcast that streams on the platform. I'm contacting you to let you know and also seek comment. The Roseanne Barr podcast. I mean, this is what the New York Times has come to. I like Roseanne Barr, by the way. But this is immediately you see, okay, this is just going to be propaganda hit job. This is just narrative control from the narrative controllers. The overall story is about the universe of content that exists on Rumble, its audience, and how the news opinion on Rumble contrasts with coverage from other news sources. To complete, I mean, do they mean the New York Times or the CIA or FBI or NSA or 10 other different three-letter agencies? It's hard to know. To complete the story, I deleted my other news sources and relied on Rumble for all my news for a week. Here is how the work is mentioned in the story. As a video that shows Jake and Roseanne advertising TWC Health with ad copy that says, "We are on the brink of nuclear war." This clip is included in a portion of the story that talks about how many Rumble creators emphasized how nuclear war with Russia was more or less imminent, and how sometimes those warnings turned into ads for products. I'm hoping the show would have a comment to share about this or its work more broadly on Rumble. We are hoping to publish the story later this week. Is the New York Times aware that the United States is in a proxy war with Russia right now? Are they aware of the concept of the doctrine mutually assured destruction? Mad, right? It kind of is got two sides with enough nuclear weapons to just end civilization. Russia has enough to end civilization. Just them alone has enough. They're real. They really exist. 6,000 nuclear weapons. And there's no defense shield. There's no Star Wars defense shield. There's nothing to stop them. They exist. And their purpose is to vaporize you. And if released to fulfill their purpose, and this is their purpose, they will vaporize you. They'll vaporize cities. That's real. So you've got a proxy war going on. You just have Biden aggravating the situation by allowing Ukraine to use American missiles inside of Russian territory, which is kind of a big deal. If you're saying that you're not at war with them, you kind of are at that point. Well, you kind of are right from the start. So I don't know. It seems reasonable to me to talk about this, to say, hey, maybe we shouldn't make this worse. You know, there's all these weapons that can vaporize everybody. You know, maybe let's not aggravate the situation. Why take a step closer? You don't know what the unintended consequences of your actions are going to be. History, I've said this before, trademark Radio Baloney. History is the history of unintended consequences. You just have to wait long enough. Anyway, let's check out the next thing. So here's the reply. Are you covering the ad revenue between Pfizer and CNN in this article as well? I am asking because I'm curious if this article is actual objective news or the standard New York Times hit piece against people who cover the real news. Competitors of the New York Times, you might say. If it's actual news, then you are welcome. To quote me here, Biden's authorization of long range missiles is widely believed to be an escalation in the Ukraine conflict, and Putin has floated the idea of nuclear war in response. This is all very true. You'd think the New York Times would know about this. Maybe they saw it and then they just ignored it for some reason. We want Americans safe and protected from this wildly corrupt administration, whether that's through education or highlighting specific products that can protect them. So this is a brilliant response to it, and it just exposes how what a fraud the New York Times is now. Again, short memories. It's not that long ago that they were tricking the country into going to an insane war over fake weapons of mass destruction that didn't exist. But if you read the New York Times, they did. Funny how that worked out, huh? Not very long ago. When was this? October 26, 2024. Guess what? The Washington Post ran a hit piece. So what's that? That's not very long ago. That's just a little over a month ago. The Washington Post ran a hit piece on Chris Pavlovsky and Rumble. Isn't that funny? Let's see. In the months after Donald Trump was thrown off social media for inciting a mob assault on the Capitol, they just can't help themselves. They can't help right away, just in with the framing, with the deceptive framing. A little-known technology mogul moved decisively into the former president's circle, thrown off social media for inciting a mob assault. Democracy dies in darkness, apparently, according to the Washington Post. Let's see. Pavlovsky's once obscure video streaming site received a cash infusion from a cadre of conservative investors, including J.D. Vance, now Trump's running mate. Created as a YouTube alternative 8 years earlier, Rumble had recently gained traction with right-wing users chafing against the guardrails erected by major social media services during the coronavirus pandemic. There's another way of saying that, saying guardrails. There's another way. Some people see it not so much as guardrails as blatant censorship of dissent, blatantly censoring dissent to preserve a narrative, an approved narrative. Some people think that. Some people say that. A lot of people say that. I think that myself. A lot of people say that. I say it too. They are so they're so corrupt, so insanely corrupt, and they don't care who knows it. They just assume that enough of their audience is stupid enough to just buy all of their bullshit and never wake up. To some extent, they're right, but not enough for them to make any money. When's this one from? October 31st, 2022. The New York Times has been after Rumble before. Company backed by J.D. Vance gives platform for Russian propaganda. Let's see. They have something here. Rumble has become a leading destination for conservative content by positioning itself as a platform for unfettered speech. Ooh, that's terrifying. An alternative to the content moderation or censorship, as they say. Censorship. It's just content moderation. Too many on the right of mainstream social media sites like Facebook and Twitter. But Rumble has become a leading destination for conservative content by positioning itself as a platform for unfettered speech. So how about this? Conservatives don't get censored on Rumble. Rumble is a platform for free speech where nobody gets censored for legal speech. They could just say that, right? That could be their framing right there. Just neutral. An alternative to the content moderation or censorship. Sure, censorship. It's really just content moderation. It's really just being responsible by not allowing things that the New York Times disagrees with. They could just say, Rumble doesn't censor legal speech. So conservatives who have been censored for legal speech are moving there. You could say that. That's good. That's actually good framing. That's what an objective journalist would do. I'm starting to think that these people are just psychopaths, to be honest with you. You know? They're just psychopaths. I mean, how could you just lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and persecute and persecute and persecute? Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Subscribing really helps me out. I thank you for that. I will see you next time.